When we look at someone who is incredibly successful, it can be easy for us to start thinking that there's something innately different about them. We'll look at their long list of accomplishments and start to think that they must have heroic levels of willpower and self-control to get the amount of stuff done that they do. And we'll start to think that we can't be like that, because the level of effort it looks like that requires just seems like more than what we're capable of outputting. But research has shown that there isn't much of a difference between these people who appear to be superhuman and people who are struggling. It's not that these people have massive levels of willpower or even more willpower than anybody else overall, but what they do have is a structure to their lives that reduces the willpower expenditure for each positive action to a level that's insignificantly small. The process of creating this structure is called life setup, and it involves setting up your life to make these positive things you want to do as easy as possible to get started with. And that's what this video is about, showing you how to do this so you can start moving towards the things you want to do automatically as easily as possible. Before you get started with your life setup, you should start thinking about the goals you want to achieve in a way that's different than the way most people usually do. If you look at achieving a goal as a one-time event, where you take massive action and then it's done, then you're going to feel like a loser almost all of the time. The whole time you're working towards the goal, you'll feel like you're failing because you're still falling short of what you want to be doing. And then, if you don't eventually succeed with that goal, you'll have to feel that way permanently. Whereas even if you do manage to achieve your goal, you're only going to have a fleeting feeling of success until you realize that you've just lost the thing that was giving you a sense of purpose and direction in your life. And the only option you have is to start with another goal and feel like a failure again until you achieve that one. This is why instead of looking at an individual goal, you should implement systems into your lives that will naturally lead to the achievement of many goals. This way, you'll feel like a winner all of the time as long as you're sticking to your systems each day. Life setup is the process of creating these systems and making them as easy as possible to follow. For example, if you want to increase your fitness, you don't focus on the goal of what you want your body to look like. You design a workout routine and stick to it. And if you want to create a successful business, you don't focus on the goal of how much money you'd like to have. You design systems for how you're going to spend your time learning new skills and creating value each day. Systems like this are like the compound interest of personal success, with a small change now adding up to a dramatic difference over time. Unfortunately, there's a problem we all have to face. Starting out with new systems in our lives can be really hard because human beings are naturally extremely lazy. Because really, I think we all know that each of us is probably 5 times lazier than we'd like to admit to ourselves. If your brain can think of any possible excuse to have you browse memes on your phone all day instead of doing something valuable with your time, it will make you do it. Our brains have evolved to always want to take the path of least resistance. So the trick here is to turn the productive things you want to do into the path of least resistance. To reroute the path of least resistance, we need to make it easier to get started with the activities we want to spend time on. There's an idea called the 20-second rule in a book called The Happiness Advantage. The core concept is that by either adding or subtracting 20 seconds to the time it takes to get started doing something, we dramatically change the likelihood that we will do that activity consistently. The whole idea is to get your own laziness working for you. To do this, we'll want to reduce the friction involved in starting the activities we want to do, and increase the friction for the activities we want to avoid. The easiest way to do this is with environment design. When people say this phrase, they usually start imagining some super extravagant, expensive home office that takes up a ton of space. But you can actually make a huge difference to your environment without making this kind of investment, simply by moving the things that you need to start doing productive work out into the open and making them accessible in the rooms you spend the most time in, while also taking those distracting items and putting them away where you can't access them as easily. For example, as part of building better health and fitness habits, I make sure that the junk food is put away in the cupboard or not brought into my house at all. Meanwhile, my protein powder is left out on the counter at all times. I also leave my workout clothes out in the bathroom to make it easier for me to automatically change into them as part of my morning routine. When it comes to using environment design to build my productivity, I leave my to-do list open on my computer screen overnight so that it's the first thing I see when I get up in the morning. I also leave my note-taking and ebook reading applications open on the taskbar. But when it comes to video games, I don't leave the icons on my desktop, I don't leave them open and running, and I close down Steam just to create that bit of extra friction when I have to open it up if I want to play anything, making the distractions less accessible. From here, you can make it even easier to start building new positive habits by using a technique called habit stacking. With this strategy, you pair an activity you want to start doing with an activity you already do at the moment, usually by doing the new activity immediately after the current activity. So, for example, after you have your first morning drink, you could immediately do some exercise. Or after you've checked some time-wasting app on your phone, you can immediately press play on an audiobook. This helps you to build new habits because you're not working against yourself, and instead, you're using the person you already are to your advantage. Once you've used this method to create one new good habit, you can do it over and over again, stringing habits together consecutively to create elaborate patterns of behavior for certain times of day. This is how some people end up having really great morning and evening routines. For harder tasks that require more motivation to get started with, you can use a technique called temptation bundling. This involves pairing something you want to do with something you need to do. Some examples of this are having a music playlist you listen to when you're studying or working out, or having a super comfy set of workout clothes you wear when you exercise. The idea here is to mentally condition yourself to associate that difficult task with something pleasurable until it becomes easier for you to continue doing it. To keep yourself going once you've started automating positive activities, you should make the process as enjoyable and satisfying as possible. And few feelings are more satisfying than the feeling of making progress, especially when you can see your progress visually. Habit trackers are a great way to get this kind of gratification boost every time you follow through with a positive habit and get to tick something off the list. Some great ones to consider are Todoist, which has a clean and simple layout, and Habitica, which changes your real life into an RPG. The more effort you put into putting these systems into place, the easier it will become to continue. This is because the process will cause physical changes in your brain. The pathways between neurons involved in your new thought processes will continually be reinforced, and you'll even start to develop new brain tissue when you do types of thinking that you haven't done before. To take action after watching this video, think of what new system you'd like to put in place and what activity you're already doing can be linked to it. And also, think about how to make the process as enjoyable and satisfying as possible. If you'd like to find out more about building habits, then I'd highly recommend a book called Atomic Habits by James Clear. This book is great and goes into great detail on things like habit stacking and temptation bundling. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't already, then subscribe to see more like it. Have a great day.